Corona Negra, no one out there better. Y'all all had your shine, now I'm changing the weather. It's Corona Negra, no one out there better. Y'all all had your shine, now I'm changing the weather. It's Corona Negra, it's Corona Negra, it's Corona Negra, no one out there better. Y'all all had your shine, now I'm changing the weather. It's Corona Negra, no one out there better. Y'all all had your shine, now I'm changing the weather. It's Corona Negra, it's Corona Negra, it's Corona Negra, it's Corona.
So you mentioned today. So you're running today. And I say this with all due respect. We know Ganem already. He's been in office for quite some time. Some people want him there, some people don't. I get that part. But you know how there's a saying where a person says, I'd rather know the devil than not know the devil.
This your boy Corona Negra, and this is Gloves Off.
It's Corona Negra, no one out there better. Y'all all had your shine, now I'm changing the weather. It's Corona Negra, no one out there better. Y'all all had your shine, now I'm changing the weather. It's Corona Negra, it's Corona Negra, it's Corona Negra.
Still have high hopes for Bridgeport. I embarked on that journey. And the unfortunate thing is that often people get in office and forget the purpose and the goal why they were there.
This is your boy Corona Negra. You are now on a show called Gloves Off. On Gloves Off, we don't sugarcoat, we don't beat around the bush, and we don't bite our tongue. With that being said, everything you hear is coming straight out of our mouth. This is what we believe is true, and to each his own. Everybody has their opinion. I'm gonna let him introduce himself so he could tell you a little bit about his story and where he come from, so y'all could get to know him and see why he chose to want to run to be mayor. So,
well, thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. I appreciate you, first of all, for even
problem.
showing up.
No problem.
He a man of his word. He showed up. I'm just saying.
No, I grew up in Bridgeport. I've been here since 1981.
You was born here?
I was born in Cape Verde. I arrived here from Cape Verde Island. Grew up right there in the hollow section of Bridgeport around the Nanago Park area.
I know Nanago.
Yeah, I came here with some relatives.
Okay.
And I stayed. And I stayed without the proper documentations. And at that time, it was a little different. I enrolled in school, started Columbus School 5th grade.
Oh, okay.
And then on to Blackham School. And then the Reagan amnesty passed a law for, Reagan administration passed a amnesty law with people that were here prior to 1981, immigrants. Okay. So I was able to qualify for permanent status. I was able to get my green card and then became a citizen of the United States. Graduated from Central High School in the top 5%. Loved school. I think that was my escape because coming to a country where you didn't know the culture, the language. In that time, the hollow section was predominantly with Cape Verdean Portuguese and Puerto Ricans.
For real?
And so forth.
I can't visualize that.
So that was like my little hub. So, I really was academically inclined. And then graduated, went on to University of Connecticut. I ended up there really because of a guidance counselor, Mr. Shepard. You see him there and, he's very skinny and he was in his office, tons of papers around him. And I think anybody that went to Central clearly remembers that. And, I filled out the application. At that time, it was different than now because technology and everything has made things a lot simpler.
Yes.
So when you don't have others that have gone through college and gone through the system or the process, they don't know what it was. So for me, it was like, between Fordham, I was accepted at Fordham, Georgetown, and really got all of the financial scholarships with financial aid also for UConn. And spent 4 years, graduated with my undergrad in marketing, created a whole new family and friends, including my fraternity, Omega Psi Phi fraternity. Black fraternities are different than white fraternities.
Okay.
In a sense, as far as I haven't experienced the white fraternity, so I can only speak for the black fraternity. It is truly a brotherhood where you really develop a relationship that 33 years later, you're still in very much contact with those that went on the line with you. you develop a bond not only with them but their families. You understand. You're involved in the birth of their kids, their marriage, the goods, the bad, the divorce, not divorce, the christening. So it's a family. It's a family that we have up to today. But it's a bond not only in the sense of, you know, fraternal, but spiritual, mentoring, and that's really, you know, when you look at our cardinal principles, it talks about that. So we've always remained tight up to this point, and my highest peak, they're there, and my lowest point, they're there as well. Especially coming from Cape Verde, I didn't have any brothers and sisters here.
True.
I have 18 brothers and sisters, and they're all in Cape Verde and all the other things. So to me, they were the fabric, especially at UConn.
I mean, you made a comment. I want to record you saying that because that was a nice comment. So what did you just say?
That every day I check my mail, it always says vote for John Gomes. And last time, there was like, it was over here too. There was like cars at the people like out the window saying vote for John Gomes.
Yeah. So that's how you know who he is. Okay, that's good. That's good. So you think you like him?
Yeah, I hope he gets chosen for the mayor.
Okay.
You had all the crack epidemic. You had the east side with barricades. You had people on the roof watching blocks by blocks. All the gangs controlling different blocks, and every block was a different top selling as far as all this. So to me, it really is the lady that raised me. We had a few kids because I was I was never raised with my mother and father. So, you know, I've always had three different women that kind of guided me through my growth in my life. To me, we had, you know, it was the neighborhood kids. There were 3 or 5 of us, and we played football together. We rode bicycle together, and at 7 o'clock, I was in the house. So that was, I think, what kept me out. I mean, I have a lot of friends who have died, incarceration, family members. So I cannot tell you what happened that I escaped. I can only tell you that, you know, the grace of God and certain intervention. I was fortunate not to. And then going to UConn kind of made me be away from a lot of things that happened on a daily basis. So
going back and forth wasn't a challenge. Like going to school, you focusing on class, and then soon as you leave out of school on your breaks, you come back home, and then all the noise is happening.
I used to be. I mean, I stayed up on campus, so I used to come back on the weekend, and then in the summertime, I always did internships and programs. And
you stayed busy.
So I stayed.
Stay busy, stay out the way.
You know, at that time, it was, you know, how do you stay busy? How do you build your resume? Because you know, you're looking at how do I graduate and have a resume that at least could get my foot in the door in the corporate America.
Hey world, you know the vibes. This your boy Corona Negra. You know this is Gloves Off. We don't sugarcoat, beat around the bush or bite our tongue. You need to tune in, man. Real talk.
So when did politics start to touch your heart?
Politics came by accident. After I graduated, I went to work in corporate America for 12 years. Because, you know, I did domestic, and then my master's were international business. I speak reading and writing 5 languages. I worked in Miami. I managed Bahamas, Bermuda, Aruba, Bonaire, Curaçao, and I took part of Trinidad, Tobago, and some other countries. And after several acquisitions with Nestle, with Hershey's and other company, I relocated back here, and I was put in charge of 10,000 retail stores in the 5 boroughs of New York City. So that's why I came back here, and I actually got involved in politics because I wanted to help someone that was running, and I was going to be their treasurer. And that's how it evolved from there. Then within that role, an opportunity came to work for the city of Bridgeport because of my academic background, corporate background. They felt that I would be good in spearheading a new department they were looking to start in the city of Bridgeport. It was called City Statistics. And back in the days, and I think that was the late 90s or something like that, 93, somewhere in the 90s or later than that, 2007. So after 2008, 8, 9, I went to work with the city. And at that time, there was a trend that was going in different cities across the United States, and that was to measure accountability, efficiency, and transparency. And many, were taking metrics, performance from the daily activities and presenting that and look at how they could make the city more efficient. So I traveled to Baltimore, Boston, New York, Rhode Island, Danbury, various cities around, and looked at their best practices. And on a blank sheet of paper, we began actually with an Excel spreadsheet and created different sections that we wanted to collect information. So in doing that, you begin to understand the 19 division and 41 subdivision within the city. You begin to understand the performance. You begin to develop metrics. And, at that time we started that. And unfortunately it didn't work out because you can't hide the fact that numbers and data, and they showed that it was more political driven than result oriented for the benefit of Bridgeport. And there was a clash with that administration, and we separated. And went my way. It was to a point that I was fed up. I was arrested for being president of the Cape Verdean Association under that. And obviously we knew it was a setup, political sabotage, political setup, and the court threw everything out. I ran for mayor as a result of that, but at that time, I don't think, looking now where I'm at and who I was back then, I think it was more emotional driven than strategic and done for the right purpose, as to where today is completely night and day.
That's enough for them, and that's enough for them.
Hello, cameraman.
Yes, how you doing? I'm okay, yes. Yes, look at the city of Bridgeport, y'all.
We're having a great time here at the Boys and Girls Club. Ribbon cutting.
Yes.
Standing here with Chief Porter. Holding it down here in Bridgeport.
Yes.
Frank, take care, Frank.
All right.
I'm coming to your wine tasting.
Look, Michael J. White, come here. You know the dude that plays Spawn? The movie Spawn? You never seen Spawn? Stop being loud like that. Man, introduce you to him because he grew up in school with his grandma. Yes, he's from Bridgeport.
So some people are in a place where they like, okay, I'm content with the way Bridgeport running because I already know how to deal with certain individuals. Now a new person come on the floor. What is guaranteed pertaining to education that would separate what's happening today? Because that's number one in the violence. Those are the two biggest things Bridgeport is tackling.
I mean, to know whoever's in, the results, and that's a result that hasn't changed. I was a supporter of this administration when it first came out. I believed in second chance. Many people that came around said, listen, check in second chance, it's gonna change, we're gonna do great. And because I still have high hopes for Bridgeport, I embarked on that journey. And the unfortunate thing is that often people get in office and forget the purpose and the goal why they were there. It becomes self-centered instead of that inclusivity for the community. People know me in the community. I build a relationship with the community, and they know what I'm about. Not only the credibility that I build with the employees inside City Hall, but also the residents, because I'm one of those that's living the consequences of the lack of what's not happening. Bridgeport has plenty of resources. It's just you need someone that gives that oomph, that has that Bridgeport in the blood, and you do it because you believe in what you're gonna do.
I'm sorry for interrupting, but I'm just letting y'all know I am not a politician. I just interview all people that is willing to sit down and speak their piece. I am not telling y'all who to vote for and who not to vote for. I just sat down with a man and he spoke his piece and I spoke mine.
We have a tremendous amount of resources, not only financially, from a location standpoint and from the people standpoint. And that's what needs to be guided with someone that really wants that difference in Bridgeport. I'm a product of education here in Bridgeport, public school system. These words I'm speaking to you is because the English in school taught me where I'm at. My 4 daughters went to the public school system.
Okay, I was going to ask
So
that.
I'm a champion of the education system 100%. You know, what has happened is that we have a city that we continue not to fund education fully. We funded minimal. We have teachers in exodus because there isn't that sense of relationship with them. Parents who feel that they're being underpaid. You have a Board of Education, a City Council that don't engage consistently, and you have a superintendent and a mayor in the past that really seldomly get together. For me, under my administration, that would change completely. Fully fund education and whatever else is needed. I will work hands on hands with superintendent on the ongoing meetings on a monthly basis to understand what's going on. I would obviously have the city council, and because I also put a slate of people from the community to run to beat that difference. Graduate, a young kid from the east side who went to public school system, college graduate in biology and also philosophy. You know, you have a professor, adjunct professor, caseworker. You have someone in the community that I put on my slate. So education to me is everything, because that's the cornerstone of what needs to be put in place to give our kids, our youth, the opportunity to show that they can shine instead of just being statistically put away or profiled in a negative light. We're talking about, under my program, definitely internship programs. There's plenty of summer youth employment that you could tie to academic achievement. We could talk to local higher education to look at tuition as far as affordability, and also, and more important, engage the parents to let them know that they're part of the solution. Not only the parents as a voter of Bridgeport, but as a parent of their kids, to know that what they do and how they do affect the outcome. Because if they don't voice their opinion on the PAC meetings or on the Board of Education meetings, things will remain as is, and they need someone at the top that has lived the consequences, but it's also a product of what is going on.
Do you have ideas for kids after school? Because it seems like some parents still need time after work.
Part of the situation that we have to put those stakeholders, those organizations around the table to understand what they're doing. Are they really doing what they have to do to meet the demands of what the kids need, extracurricular activity, after school program as far as academic tutoring and so forth. And also on the other side, what support are we giving the parents as far as counseling and other things? We need to sit around the table and talk to these parents, because we have plenty of resources. I mean, there's you have fund, that's federal fund money that comes on a yearly basis into the Lighthouse programs and other programs that we could go and get, that we just need to put people around the table. I mean, as an example, right now, the city of Bridgeport, the grants department, I know they only have 2 grant writers and 1 supervisor. Under my administration, you probably have 10 grant writers, because I'm looking to go after any and every opportunity that we could get to rebuild and refocus Bridgeport, not only from a social standpoint, from a political standpoint, economic standpoint, education standpoint, anything that we need to do to bring transparency and accountability. And we cannot do it just standing on the sideline or have somebody that's hands off. In order for you, see, the thing is, for you to have that position of mayor, it's not you wanting it. The people got to tell you, run for it. You have this, you have that, and you got to live it, you got to breathe it. And you cannot continue to put administration in place that is headed or directed by people who don't live here. If you don't live here, you can't tell me the consequences of what needs to be done, because after 5 o'clock, you're not here. At nights, you're not here. And the weekends, you're not here. So you don't understand the shootings that's going on in our community. The police lights, that's sirens, that's in everywhere. You don't understand the drug epidemic that's going on. You don't understand how my kid is frustrated because they can't get, extra notebook or pens or things like that in the school system. You don't understand the issue that's going on with the security system or the security guards as far as the fights and things that's going on in school. We need to engage the people so they could feel that you're part of the solution and you're willing to sit down and talk about the problem.
It's your boy Corona Negra. You know what I mean? I appreciate y'all tuning in to Gloves Off. Gloves Off is for those that don't feel like they have a voice. This is an opportunity to give them a voice, to speak what they believe is on their heart and on their mind. Sometimes people prejudge, don't know the person, only know the story. This is the opportunity for the person to be able to speak their side of the truth, you know what I mean, from their perspective. Because like we always said, it's 3 sides to a story. Their side, your side, and the truth. Whatever one veers to the truth, that's the one that we should go with. You know what I mean? So this gives you an opportunity on Gloves Off to be able to speak your piece. Nobody put words in your mouth. You get to bring your evidence. You know what I mean? You get to speak from your own tongue, and you held accountable for what you say. You know what I mean? You own your own words, just like I do. You get to ask me questions, I get to ask you questions. It's all love, you know what I mean? We sit back, we kick it. You know what I mean? You don't know what I'm gonna ask you. There's no prep questions. I don't know what you're gonna ask me. You know what I mean? It's just gloves off. We don't sugarcoat, we'll beat around the bush and bite our tongue. Those are the only rules. It is what it is.
We can't continue to sweep the problems under the rug and throw statistics and other information to the community to make it look good. We gotta be real. And that's really what I'm about. So with me, education first and foremost, and through education, you then begin to empower the youth and look at what they need so you could avoid these shootings, these gang violence, and begin to raise the self-esteem and lessen the mental trauma that these kids are living on the everyday basis in their home.
So now when it comes to the violence out here, obviously education, I think if a lot of people knew a lot more and had access to certain resources, it would be less violence. But even though you're shooting to be mayor and, inshallah, when, that happens, you get your position to be able to, now it's going to be everybody rushing you, overwhelming you with their wants and needs. They're going to say you made promises to them and stuff like that. You think that you're going to be able to, you ain't going to make everybody happy.
Well, the first thing,
let's just put it plain.
The first thing I tell you, I made no promise to no one.
Okay.
The second thing is that I've lived here long enough and I'm part of what's happening to know the good and the bad. And the third thing is I've worked in municipal government for a few years to know who are the players and who are the non-performers and who are those that want to take advantage of the system. Mm-hmm. So yes, I will prioritize accordingly, but I'm not here to accommodate to a selected few. That's why my slogan is a mayor for all people. Without a doubt, I'll listen to all and every, but it's going to be a government that's going to be performance driven and it's going to be accountability driven, and it's going to be one that when you walk into City Hall, I want you as a resident of Bridgeport to feel that they work for you and not the other way around. So I'm not really worried about that. I would love to have that opportunity as hopefully being elected as mayor.
So you mentioned the second chance. I once upon a time was incarcerated. Thank God I've been home 6 years. But when I was incarcerated, second chance program was invented. And then I went to Willard-Sibosky, which that's where the second chance program was. And when I was in that program, I voiced in my opinion that the program honestly wasn't doing nothing for us. So anyway, I ended up getting kicked out. When I came to society, I was blessed to go with my grandmother to a NAACP meeting in New Haven at Hill House. And while I was there, I heard Ganem and they were speaking pertaining to the second chance. And I got so annoyed where I interrupted, and I was fresh home. I haven't been home probably 3 days. And I interrupted and I was like, everybody's lying. you know, and I started speaking pertaining to the second chance and how it was, you know, like the people that basically was in play, I felt like they wasn't trying to teach or educate us to stay in society. It was more of a sink or swim. So when it comes to people coming out of prison, three things we're faced with: housing, transportation, and jobs. You know what I mean? So how can we get a second chance walking out of jail and we got an F title? Because every job say that they don't ask that question, but they're paying attention to that and stuff of that sort. So like, how could I get that? Well, I'm blessed to have a second chance, so thank God for that. But how could the next gentleman come out and have that second chance? Is there any ideas for someone fresh out of prison with no ID, none of that?
I think it's about accountability. You can't put a program and just say I have a program and throw money and think it's going to work. That's not going to work. I think one of the things that we have to do, number one, workforce development. You know,
Explain that.
The city needs to understand from Hartford what are the different industries that's trying to come into Connecticut.
Okay.
And when they get to Hartford, that they're not deviating to Milford or Shelton or Hartford or some other Stamford and not to Bridgeport. I think, you know, that's one of the things when you look at my economic development proposal, we need to develop a strong relationship with the Connecticut Economic Development Office along with Advanced Connecticut to understand what that's about. In Bridgeport, I've identified various sectors that I want to entice to bring into Bridgeport, where we talk about, you know, artificial intelligence, the Financial Institute. We don't even have hospitality or hotels in here. So, you know, those are just to mention a few that we need to attract here because money that's being made here is being spent outside.
Yes.
We need to make money here and keep it here. So when you look at, for example, second chance program, I believe that the city almost needs to act as a fiduciary on the back of those that are coming out to understand, you know what, the city is backing this person up, and to create a database of all the jobs that are available, and then with the other nonprofits to make sure that person is trained properly to go and get that job. Housing is a problem. So if you have money to put into this program, then the city should be able to somewhat put almost like a revolving account. If somebody's coming in, if you train them for a job, then you know what, through this landlord, you know, the city will be responsible for the first 6 months as a loan to this person, but this person has to pay it back so you can give it to the next person. You know, and with that, you're talking about training, building resume, counseling where it needs to be, and ultimately get that person inside that job. So the city needs to take a bigger role in the sense that, you know, we'll work with these nonprofit and the person looking at their skills, ability, and what's available. But we need to take a more active role, because I've spoken to many people coming out, and one of the first things is I can't get a job, or I can't even say, you know, this apartment I want, even though some of them have jobs, but they still won't get an apartment because of the history. So the city needs to work very, very hands-on with the landlord to be like, listen, we have a revolving account because there's money has been already budgeted. So if you take that money and put it here, and through the grants that I'm talking about, being able to get more money and you put it into an account, and then, you know, if you need help for 6 months, and you have a job now, you pay the city back in so much, so that money stays in there that you revolve to the next person. That's just an idea. As far as you know, ID, that I mean, that's a fairly easy thing as far as whether it's a motor vehicle or whatever ID you need. But the key thing is the city needs to back up the support when you talk about job and you talk about housing, because many that I've spoken with, including those that have been out for a while, even though they have a job, they cannot get an apartment because of their record. So the city needs to step up. This is so-and-so, along with these nonprofits, to be like, no, give them an opportunity, give them that apartment for 6 months. The city's backing it up, and and on their own. And also through there, you work with other agencies about restoring credits and so forth. So there's tons of opportunities. It's just how you approach it and how willing you are to commit to what you're talking about. You know, part of the problems that I've encountered in the community is that too many empty promises. A lot of politicians come and they show up, they want to promise you the world, and they're going to do this and that, and at the end they don't deliver anything, and then, or if they deliver very minimal, and then the next person that's real about what they're trying to do, trying to talk to that voter, they're like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
And
true.
So, no, my commitment is real. It's
Do you think therapy is a must for those that transition from from prison to society?
I mean, that probably,
Because I felt like I needed it,
Yeah,
and they wasn't trying to.
I would leave that to the professional, but I think there's something that we need to look at. How do you readjust, especially given the time that you were away? I mean, someone that's been away 3 years or 2 years or a year versus somebody that's been 30. It's a big.
Yeah, it's a huge difference.
But we have to look at the nonprofit groups around the city and really hold them as well accountable, because how much of the total budget is really going towards service versus operational. You're not taking all the money for your paycheck, but you're really rendering something. I've met some organizations that are very small and doing such exceptional job, and you have others that are big, and you're like, okay. So you got to bring people to the table and openly speak. The problem with the city is that although it's predominantly 84% minority, which we are the majority, we work against each other. And what I'm trying to do is bring us together on a table to say, let's talk, let's take ownership, let's show pride and unity. Because whether you talk about the job that will create, the real estate that will develop, or the entertainment sector that will flourish, it's for all.
I had to pull over again and tell y'all I appreciate y'all for tuning in, but I also have to stress and remind y'all, I am not a politician, and I am not telling y'all who to vote for. I interview people that's willing to sit down with me and speak their piece. I will interview anyone that is willing to sit down with me. Just gotta let you know, I am not telling you who to vote for. I'm not persuading y'all in any shape, fashion, or form.
All of us, because at the end of the day, we're the one driving the streets. We're the one have the kids in the school. We're the one that's affected by the crime. We're the one that affected by the blight and the dirty streets and things like that. So
potholes and all.
Yeah, we have to stop this thing about selective few, and we need to broaden it out. And I think once people see change begin for the city as a whole, I think that sense of hope and spark will ignite even brighter than what I've seen has happened as far as the voice that I'm talking to people in the community.
Thank you. I greatly appreciate you. I know you're a busy man, so I'm not going to take up too much of your time. But if you would like to address the people on anything in particular that I haven't even touched on, or introduce yourself, where they could find you at, look you up, study more about you,
I would definitely say social media, John Gomes for mayor. Check my website, check Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I have all the information there. We're located at 2196 East Main. That's my headquarters.
Right in the heart of Bridgeport.
But the one thing I would tell everyone that's listening and watching is that for them to understand that one vote makes a difference, that every vote makes a difference, that we need to stop complaining, and we need to take action. Until that action is converted into, until that vote until you cast that vote and it's created into an action, we could scream all we want, but we're not executing that power, because, we're the one with it. We're the one with the power. And, I will stress, register to vote, show up in meetings from the city council to the Board of Ed. One thing that I want to do
is that on a public site to be able to show up to these meetings.
Yes, you could always go to the Bridgeport. It should be at least. It should be all the agendas as far as any committees, city council meeting, any committees, and also sign up to speak. And if you're not being heard, talk to that. See, the city council or any position that you put the people in, they hold you. They report to you, and if you're not happy, vote them out. And that's what the people got to do, and that's something that in this campaign we emphasize, especially with the young ones. You're 18, register to vote.
My generation don't think that, like how you say your one vote do count, but my generation don't be thinking that sometimes. They're more, they like, oh, if I ain't gonna go because my vote don't count. But you're right, that one vote could change everything.
It's in light of Bridgeport, some of the things they're actually currently developing now. But we need to change that dynamic. We need to change that language, and we cannot give up. no one's perfect, but I think as we continue to, not give up and go persistent against that wind that's coming towards us, there's a stronger wind that's pushing us forward. And I think if we unite as a community, structurally, location-wise, regionally, demographic, resource-wise, financially, and people, we have what we need. When you talk about Bridgeport, everyone else is developing but us, and there's no reason for it. And if we unite, you can see that beacon of light in the next 4, 8, 12 years shine. And we could really have affordability when you talk about mill rate, when you talk about lower the taxes, when you talk about real good quality of education, when we talk about high rises, when we talk about taking advantage of the 22 miles of water accessibility that we have here.
22 miles?
Yes, we're there. We have tremendous.
I never heard that we had all that water.
We have tremendous, and we're right there, 95. I'm envisioning Bridgeport forward. Why don't we have 25 to 35 seat stadium for professional soccer team with a helicopter pad going to Manhattan, fast ferry to wherever they want to go, and then the high rises. 50-story building and job creation. We are located. We have deep sea water. We have everything we need.
Get a soccer team. That's gonna bring a lot of money. A lot of money.
There's a lot of things we could do, and the thing is, we put it where everyone benefits. You got jobs. You got quality, but there's a lot of opportunity. We just need to break out of this black cloud or this sense of almost giving up. We just gotta break through it.
That my voice don't matter. Your voice does matter. Your vote matters.
Everything matters, because as long as we complain and consistently complain until we get what we want, I think that's where the power's at.
Well, I thank you. I appreciate you.
This
is Gloves Off. We don't sugarcoat. We don't beat around the bush or bite our tongue. He didn't know what I was going to ask him. I didn't know what he was going to say. And we genuinely had a conversation. You hear from his mouth. You can always tune in to his site, and you can always ask him questions, inbox him. He's open book. The big popped up and just sat down with me. So y'all already know who it is. Love y'all, CT. Stand up.
Peace.
No one out there better. Y'all all had your shine, now I'm changing the weather. It's Corona Negra. No one out there better. Y'all all had your shine, now I'm changing the weather. It's Corona Negra. It's Corona Negra. It's Corona Negra. It's Corona.
I don't know what tomorrow holds, but I do know one thing. I am full support of Bridgeport, Connecticut growth and mental development, emotionally, physically, financially, spiritually, and all. So whoever becomes the mayor of this great city of mine, I promise you that I will hold you accountable for the things that you say. Be careful what's on the tongue, because you can manifest it. So if you make promises, please keep them.
Cause I speak for CT when I say this. We are tired.
It's Corona Negra. No one out there better. Y'all all had your shine, now I'm changing the weather. It's Corona Negra. No one out there better. Y'all all had your shine, now I'm changing the weather. It's Corona Negra. It's Corona.